This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.
Well, what did we just see? Super Bowl 58 is in the books. The WM Phoenix Open is in the books. There's a lot to process here as the Kansas City Chiefs, once again, world champions. And, well, the Phoenix Open, I mean, the headline is a local guy won, but it was more about the fans and if this thing has jumped the shark. So let's talk about this thing. Nick King was out at the Phoenix Open on Sunday, took in all the madness and craziness. Julia Lopez is a Niners fan, so we start by offering our condolences. Julia, how are you doing?
Better than Joe.
Okay. Joe, is your microphone? So Joe's producing the show. He's behind the glass here. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm not good.
Okay. We had picture. I had mental images of Joe and his cat sitting all alone in his apartment yesterday. Saying,
Joe, does it make it worse how many of us ask you how you're doing on a day like today?
I expect it, and it's actually better when I'm not doing anything. My mind just keeps replaying stuff in my head. Like I couldn't sleep last night for like 2 hours, like with the lights off. Speaking of the cat, he just wanted to cuddle at like the wrong times. And he's just like on my lap in overtime. I'm like, I can't do this, cat. Like,
was it kind of like when I was bringing up scenes from the movie Fletch when you were trying to watch your baseball team compete for a championship?
No, I'm a superstitious guy, so I'll try anything. And he came next to me and forced a field goal, so I was like, oh, he's good. But then when he wants to like on the lap and like a lot of attention, I'm like, cat, not right now.
Yeah, just put him outside. He'll wander his way back. All right, so we're going to get more to the Super Bowl in a minute. We're going to let Joe just sit there quietly and take this in. Nick has to be on the air here shortly, but let's talk about the Phoenix Open. Nick, let's start with you. You were there on Sunday. Was Sunday as crazy as any of the other days leading up to Sunday or to the final day?
Yeah, I was out there like 6 consecutive days. I think that a lot of this can actually be put on Mother Nature. Now, I do think that we are possibly, there were several times that I was like, are we reaching a tipping point with this tournament? That it's always been less about the golf and more about the party. But I wonder how much in like the internet viral video era that people just want videos and do stupid things to be on video, and there's more and more of that. And it probably had more of a University of Texas frat party element.
It did. I mean, I wandered out there and actually to see a friend of mine. He didn't go to UT. He went to Texas Tech. He was crazier, but he was on 16. He goes, I've never seen anything like this. He goes, I'm having so much fun. There's a guy in a bear costume in the suite next to me, and everybody just keeps going, bear, 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 and the bear would chug a beer. But it's like, how many? I mean, everybody's chugging beers. It's like the thing to do. As I was walking around there, I was like, these people, this is a new level of drunkenness, in my opinion. Julia, as you were making your way out there and asked people sports trivia, what did you observe?
It depends on which group you talk to, for sure. But the bachelor parties are always the craziest. Like and every time you walk through with a camera and a microphone, they just completely are magnetized towards that and want to be on camera and are kind of crazy. But it's almost kind of sad too, you know, like people are getting out their cameras and getting, you know, people falling over and like, I don't know, like obviously like they're entertained, but how about just help the dude up? You know, like help him up the hill if he can't get up the hill. Like just be a good person.
No, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of just, I mean, it was debauchery, in my opinion. I don't use that word much, but I think I used it correctly in that instance. Yeah. Here's some sound that I acquired on Friday from some of the fans that I talked to. I think we should listen to this and you know, get your thoughts.
So we want to know, all right, who do you think's going to win the golf tournament?
Jordan Spieth.
Yeah? Who do you think?
49ers.
Okay. Who's leading the golf tournament?
Harry Potter.
All right, we could have talked to people all day. Jordan Spieth did not win, neither did the 49ers or Harry Potter, so they were all wrong.
0 for 3.
Right.
Is that video still playing?
Yeah, it is. Sorry, let me turn that off. I should have had Joe with the technology. He's a technology guy.
So that's like the fun stuff that we've always been able to do at the Phoenix Open.
Yeah.
Julia's talking about the sliding. Like that was the thing, Saturday and Sunday. the biggest cheers you would hear out there, save for the big ones on 16, were someone slipping in the mud.
Wow.
And that would happen as someone's getting ready to hit on the 12th tee, but there's a big hill there that's just complete mud. And so when I was saying like Mother Nature is as big a culprit of anything here, it's just that all these places that people walk normally or sit are on a hill
Right.
that's just completely turned to mud after several days of rain. So you can't really walk there or sit there. But then the sidewalks, the cart paths, become so congested with people that people try to go up around the hills or on the side of the hills, and then they slip, and then everyone goes nuts. And then at a certain point, people are purposely sliding down the hills, which goes back to like the viral video element of it all. It just like 16, I thought was pretty great. Like it didn't, like 2 years ago, 16 felt like maybe it jumped the shark because everyone was throwing their beer cans onto the green.
And they fixed that.
They fixed
with
that.
paper cups.
16 was pretty solid, I thought, like pretty normal.
Yeah.
It was other parts of the course where you couldn't move and where it was super muddy that it was a little bit different than in years past.
And you had Billy Horschel yelling at a fan. You had Jordan Spieth yelling at a fan.
Zach Johnson yelling at a fan.
And from what you were able to pick up there, what was the mood of the golfers as it finished? Was it relief? Are there some that might not be coming back?
Yeah, I think another thing with the Mother Nature is that guys were cranky. So they're out there instead of just playing 18 holes. So Thursday, they maybe didn't play more than 18 holes, but they sat through a 3.5-hour weather delay.
Right.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every golfer that was out there had to play more than 18 holes. It was like one of the longest tournaments that they will play all year in terms of like time commitment. There were 7 hours of total weather delays. So the guys were cranky. They're a little bit easier to be set off at that point, I think, just from probably a little bit less sleep, a lot more time out there. So I think emotions were up, emotions were high, and in that moment, I'm sure there were a lot of guys that were like, I don't know if I'm doing this again.
Right. I mean, do you think it's jumped the shark, Julia?
What do you mean by that?
So Fonzie in Happy Days in the 70s was on, the guy in the leather jacket that's like, hey. So there was an episode of Happy Days where he was water skiing and jumped over a shark. And I think it was in a lake, which didn't make a whole lot of sense. so jump the shark, hence the where that came from.
It was like Happy Days was a great show.
Yes.
And then was this episode like, okay, we've gone too far. This isn't a good thing anymore, right?
Like I think they went to commercial right before Fonzie jumped over. It was like, oh my God, is he gonna make it, or is Fonzie gonna get eaten by a shark? And then you're like, okay, this is ridiculous. So has the Phoenix Open become, we'll put it more politely, too fan friendly?
Well, we all know that the WM Phoenix Open is all about, drinking, having fun. It is a party. When you go there, you're going to have fun, like, no doubt. I think it just depends on the types of people that go there and, like, what they want to get out of it. And, I don't know, maybe reel it back just, like, a little bit. But when you go to a skybox, we were talking about this, like, on the 16, you have 10 drinks. You have like a 10 drink thing on your like wristband. So you can get 10 drinks free, and like 10 drinks in, not a lot of people can handle that.
That would take me like 6 months at this point to get through.
See?
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know, like maybe even like ease back on that. But I don't know. We all know that it is like the party place. Like obviously you go there to drink, have fun, and do that and watch golf. Like golf is sometimes secondary when it comes to this tournament in particular. But I don't know. Something definitely might need to like maybe like kind of bring it back a little bit.
And I feel like they corrected 16. I just think you see John Rahm, you see Phil Mickelson with Live Golf, and then our conversation with Patrick McDonald from CBS Sports, who says this merger might not happen until 2027, and you're like, well, those guys were the two big draws, and I mean, what if Zach Johnson doesn't come back and 5 other guys don't come back, and we're looking at the leaderboard there. At one point, and I wasn't familiar with a lot of them. I just, how concerned should we be about the future of this tournament?
So I was just like, for us, I love golf. There's definitely some questions, but it's fascinating to me that this year in particular, I was worried about what the field was going to be. Because last year, first year, kind of post-live, it was an elevated event, so everyone was going to be here. This year was not, and I was like, what's it going to look like? Most of the guys still came, but this year was the first year they had to cap the ticket sales for 2 days, for Friday and Saturday. So the tournament, as far as existence, there are no issues. People are going to come because they don't care about the golf. If there is not a single recognizable name in the field, people are going to come.
Right, because they see it on TV. I mean, most of the people I talked to were from out of state.
Canada, Minnesota.
Well, and Canada saw their favorite son, who also lives here now.
That's cool.
Won the tournament. I mean, how big of a deal is it that Nick Taylor is your WM Phoenix Open champion? Julia, let's start with you. Then Nick has to go get ready for the 5 o'clock news. Thanks for taking one for the team today, Nick.
Well, last year when he won the Canadian Open, that was really awesome to see.
Which great fun. Like, we're sitting there, what was that, on Friday? And we're like, do we have any video of him in the system? And Julia's like, I have a Jules gem.
And then Natbo is awesome.
And I'd forgotten. I mean, that was one of those things we all saw, but you just forget about.
Yeah. So for him to win in his home country, and then for him to win here in the States where he resides, and like that is his home course, right? That's like that's where he practices. He loves that course. So just for him to win it there is so awesome. You could just tell it meant a lot for him.
Nick, you had a chance to talk to him immediately coming off the course, and that's where you get the most raw. I mean, he just fought his tail off, and you got the first 3 questions, which great job, by the way. What sort of vibe did you get off him as his family was surrounding him?
Yeah, it was super cool. And I walked with that group a lot of the day because he was playing with Sahith Theegala, who so the two of them had enormous fan support. There were so many Canadian flags following him around and people in red. And it was awesome because I know nobody was watching. It was epic theater at the end. For him to be 3 shots down with 4 holes to play, and he birdies 3 of his last 4 coming in, lifts one in at the 18th to send it to a playoff. There were a lot of people that stuck around. The Super Bowl had started by that point. Anyone who stuck around for the finish of it wouldn't have gotten to see any of the first half of the Super Bowl. And so then he birdies 3 of his last 4 in regulation. Then he birdies the 18th twice, 2 more times in the next 20 minutes, all just great putts. He told me that I pointed out that I was like, I know it's not winning your national open, but pretty cool. And he was like, oh, this is super cool. He's like, you don't get many chances to have basically 2 home games that you win. And this is a home game for him. He practices at TPC Scottsdale, he said. And kind of the last thing that I was thinking about, that I did walk with that group, and then a little bit with Charlie Hoffman and Jordan Spieth's group, and a little bit of Scotty Scheffler's group throughout the day on Sunday. I know that all those things with Zach Johnson, Billy Horschel, Jordan Spieth happened in the morning, as they were finishing their 3rd rounds. The 4th round was actually super clean out there, and maybe it was because a lot of people had started to clear out to go to their Super Bowl watch parties, but there was not a single issue for 18 holes of someone yelling in a backswing or crowds being an issue. So by Sunday afternoon, it was okay, this is an actual golf tournament again.
And you didn't miss much from the first 3 quarters of the Super Bowl. How much of the Super Bowl did you actually watch?
4 minutes.
Yeah, that's all you really needed.
Overtime.
All right, so we're going to dismiss you so you can go to the news, unless you have any other comments.
No, that's great. Thank
right,
you. I have nothing to offer about the Super Bowl.
All right, would you give Joe Ferris a hug behind the glass?
I always love to tell people how ironic it is working in sports that you watch so much less of sports than most people do.
It's like being a golf pro. You never play golf.
Yeah.
But Julia, my condolences.
Thank you.
How much does the narrative change now with the Chiefs becoming the Super Bowl champion for a 3rd time with Mahomes and Kelsey? Had Brock Purdy completed a pass to Brandon Ayuk in overtime, and the Niners have scored a touchdown instead of a field goal?
We all know that the Chiefs are a good team. They're always going to be a good team, at least for the near future, with Patrick Mahomes at QB, and Andy Reid as coach. But I feel like we know that they're good. They're the best team right now.
Right.
So they did, everything right in that game that when they needed to at the very end, and it comes down to literally a play or 2.
Right. And I was just wanting the epic storybook finish so bad of Brock Purdy starting his his story at Perry High School in the East Valley and finishing it off by throwing a touchdown in the Super Bowl to win it. Maybe it had a very Tom Brady first Super Bowl feel to it where he couldn't carry the team, but he certainly looked like a quarterback, a very serviceable quarterback for the long term there. And I would think that Niner fans, you're a Niner fan. Are you happy with Brock Purdy as a quarterback?
Oh, yeah. No, I think he has what it takes. He just needs that experience, and I feel like he'll be fine in the future. But when you look at the game and how it started, the 49ers were moving the ball well, right, with Christian McCaffrey, just feeding McCaffrey, and then he fumbles, and it's like, oh, man, where is this game going to go, right? It was just like, it was very sloppy at times.
Right.
And we were talking about even like the Chiefs having a lot of miscues, but not the prettiest game, but it was
it's fitting it came down to the extra point that was blocked. Great name for a podcast, by the way.
Moody.
That was the play of the game right there. If that's not blocked, I mean, maybe Patrick Mahomes finds a way to get in the end zone there, and they don't kick a field goal. But you just never know when you're going to be back. You never know when you're going to get that close. And for Brock Purdy to be that close, I mean, that's the difference between a movie being made about his story and it not being made. I mean, he got to the Super Bowl. I think you have to win it. Do you give him a Hollywood movie after that one?
No, I think you have to wait a few years. Let's give him a few years to see if he can actually do it. But he has such an incredible story.
Right. Travis Kelce, meanwhile, pushing Andy Reid in the sidelines. I didn't like it. I found myself really rooting for the 49ers after that one. And I feel like if that happens to anybody else in the league, it's a bigger deal. Where do you come out on the Travis Kelce push of Andy Reid?
Not a fan. Like, obviously, he's a very passionate dude. He wears his, like, emotions on his sleeve. We get that. Like, we've always known Travis Kelce is out there. But you can't just push your coach, you know? Like, the way that he just got in his face, like, the respect factor isn't there, which I don't appreciate. Especially Andy Reid. He's been doing it for so long, and he's older, and what if he fell over?
Right. I mean, he looked like an older man who, almost it stunned him, and it almost scared him. And I do wonder if Andy Reid right now is contemplating how much longer he wants to do this, if that's happening.
And remember the flack that Kyler got for Cliff Kingsbury on the sideline.
Right. I mean, there are different rules for different people, but in your opinion, is Travis Kelce worth it with all of the stuff that he brings to have on your team?
If I was Andy Reid, I would have sat him down. I don't know. I don't think any player is bigger than that. Like, just respect your coach, you know?
Right. Pat Mahomes, where is he trending as far as being the GOAT here?
Oh, gosh. We have to talk about
Joe Montana?
No.
Is he better than Joe Montana?
No. Joe?
Sadly, he's trending towards that and already might have passed him, which is tough to say being named after Joe Montana. But 3 Super Bowls this early in his career, 28 years old, and this team was not good for the majority of the year. And to pull it out, he played well to get to the Super Bowl. I don't think he played great last night. I think the missed punt gets them a touchdown. Other than that, in the final drive, like, he didn't get them in the end zone in regulation. It took a missed punt on a guy hitting his foot. 49ers had them rattled in the first half to the point of Chris Jones having to gather the defense. The offense had to get gathered. Kelce yelling at his coach. But you got to play perfect to beat them at this point. And the 49ers shot themselves in the foot, and they didn't win.
And I wonder if Chris Jones actually should have been the game MVP. I think you always give it to the quarterback, but I feel like he had 3 plays where he was right in Brock Purdy's kitchen, and that affected throws that could have been touchdowns. As far as the GOAT conversation goes, though, I mean, if Joe Montana doesn't get his back broken by Jim Burt in the 80s, I think the Niners might get one more Super Bowl. They did draft Steve Young, which was odd, and they got one more Super Bowl. They got one more Super Bowl after that. But I feel like Mahomes is not in an era where he's getting rocked every play. So I would still say Joe Montana over Patrick Mahomes. Julia, I don't know how much you watch Joe Montana.
I obviously have seen him play.
Right. I just don't know. Yeah, like, I was watching every game, and he was throwing it to
with my little notepad.
Yes. So I would say Montana's still there. If Mahomes wins one more, he probably passes Montana. The Brady conversation I feel like has already been had because Tom Brady beat Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Can Pat Mahomes catch Tom Brady as the greatest quarterback of all time in your opinion? I don't think so.
I could say I think he will eventually if it's on this trend. The Super Bowl at this point is just so big. It's bigger than it was in the Montana era. And it is ridiculous. And having the 49ers been in it 3 times in the last 10 years, 12 years.
Oh, I just forgot how tortured you guys were.
Mm-hmm.
It's always come down to the final minute, right?
Yeah. Well, we could have beat Mahomes twice and beat the Ravens. Like, we could have been celebrating our 8th. We can't get to 6. So I think the event is so big now that it is insane. And the games used to be blowouts. And now there's these tight games and you got to play perfect. And that's the Mahomes advantage, I think. Like, you have to be Tom Brady to beat him or Joe Burrow. And the AFC, I can't imagine having a team in the AFC having to face him every year in the playoffs. Like, at least the 49ers have a shot at making the Super Bowl. And they're the favorite next year already.
So who wins the Super Bowl next year and why? Julia?
Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, wow.
No, I want to see what they do with the NFL draft, who they bring in and give them a couple years because I think that they can actually, build. I'm excited to see what Austin Fort has in store. But I am going to go, oh gosh.
Does Josh Allen ever get?
You
think so?
I think the Bills. I just feel like
even
he
if
has
Diggs
so
leaves
much
there.
ammo. He has so much ammo. He's one of the best quarterbacks, and the most fun to watch. And he just needs to get to a Super Bowl.
All right. Does Joe Burrow or Josh Allen win a Super Bowl next, in your opinion?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen over Joe Burrow. Do the Cowboys? Does Dak Prescott ever win a Super Bowl?
You can answer that.
I don't think so. It seems like a great guy, but I don't know what the Cowboys are doing. It's the definition of insanity and lining it back up again. I think you should probably blow the whole thing up, and I don't understand what Trey Lance is doing on the roster. Joe, what is Trey? Yeah, it's 2 49ers fans here. What is Trey Lance doing on the Cowboys roster?
I think it was just in case if Dak wasn't the guy, but I think you got to stick with Dak. Having seen Trey Lance play enough, he's not the guy. I wonder if Josh Allen watches these last 2 games that the Ravens defense and the Niners defense put on Mahomes, and he's like, why can't my defense figure this out?
Interesting.
Like, I'm Superman against this guy, except my defense fails me every time.
So Mahomes versus the rest of the field. Throw Lamar Jackson in there in the AFC. You got Burrow, you got Josh Allen, and let's just say C.J. Stroud for fun. Mahomes against the field. Who wins the Super Bowl next?
I say Josh Allen. I'm going with Josh.
The Bills they have to prove it. Like, they just haven't, and they can't beat him. Burrow's beating them, but he might be losing some weapons. And Mahomes has lost Tyreek Hill and won 2 Super Bowls, which is insane.
Right.
Cheetah.
If Andy Reid sticks around, that's a big question there. Well, heading into this week, what else do we have? We have 2 Suns games. The Suns are headed to the All-Star break, and we'll wrap it up here.
Pitchers and catchers report on Valentine's Day.
Oh, that's like that's I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah.
That's a great time to report.
That's 2 days.
That is. Oh gosh, what should I do for Valentine's Day? By the way, do you have any good tips?
Well, definitely flowers. You have to.
April
do
doesn't
flowers.
like flowers.
How?
She thinks they're overpriced and it's just like a gimmicky thing. She
Go
does
to
not.
Trader Joe's then.
They have cheap flowers at Trader Joe's.
Yeah, you can find a really good bouquet there.
For like
$12.
Are you really? Mm-hmm. And like a $3 bottle of wine.
Gorgeous. Yeah. Well, don't get the $3 bottle of wine if you don't want a headache.
Oh, okay. Well, I feel like I've had that before, but that was probably back when the 10 drink minimum seemed doable.
The sweet spot is like 15, 20. Spend 15 or 20 on a bottle of wine. You can find a good one in that range.
But I can't even open a bottle of wine because it will sit in my house for like a week. Then we'll be like, do you want to cook with this? Because it's like you get like 1 glass out of the deal and then somebody needs something. All right. So you say $12 flowers. Joe, do you have any good tips for Valentine's Day? Any Joe tips? Joe Bros tips?
It's too late, but Steven Singer has these gold plated roses that are awesome. And they're like, they stay forever.
Gold plated roses. Okay.
Oh, how much is that?
It's like $50. Not bad.
Oh.
But I don't think you can get it in 2 days.
Do you like to cook?
I do. I like to grill, but I like to cook too.
Even a homemade meal, like at home, that is the best that you can do.
Well, we went out to dinner this weekend, so Suns played the Pistons that night. So, honey, we'll catch you. We'll catch you this weekend. What are you doing for Valentine's Day, by the way?
Cooking at home.
Yeah. What are you cooking?
Probably some type of ribeye.
Yeah.
Ribeye,
Are you a griller?
green. No,
Yeah.
my boyfriend is.
Yeah.
He loves to grill. He's like the steak master.
Yeah.
And then I'll always, I'm like the sous chef, so I'll do like the sides. I'll do like the mashed potatoes and the broccolini or the Brussels sprouts. So he's got the main dish and I got the sides, and it works out.
Do you go Trader Joe's wine then on Valentine's Day, or do you go bigger? Do you
Go bigger.
What do you go with?
Austin Hope is probably one of my favorites.
Austin Hope. I'm writing that down.
Paso.
Okay.
Paso Robles, Cabernet.
Okay.
Bum.
Paso Robles. Okay, I'm writing that down.
Austin Hope.
Austin
It
Hope.
was actually like one of like the top wineries in the country. So.
Really? Have you been there?
Yes.
You have?
Yeah, I
Okay.
went wine tasting
Do
there.
you bring like a whole like box back with you? Are you in the club?
No.
Are you in a wine club?
No, I'm not actually.
I've actually thought about doing that. We should have a wine club here at the Extra Point.
We should.
Yeah, it's a great way to make some extra cash. All right. Anything else? So we got Valentine's Day, we got the Super Bowl, we got the Phoenix Open.
I'm just
future of it.
excited for baseball season to start.
All right.
I'm so ready. I know Joe's ready too.
All right. Well, I would assume you'll be out there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday from now until October. So. Yeah.
Get ready.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Cool. So we'll talk more about baseball next week on What Did We Just See? But for now, that's the Extra Point.
This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.